Call the meeting to order, Policy and Procedure Committee, November 26, 2019, 9 a.m. Call the roll, please.
Barons.
Here.
Alt.
Here.
McTaggart. Awful. Here. Signa.
Here.
Sure.
Here. So we have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Do you have any public comments this morning?
Okay.
Hearing none, we'll move to the committee chair reports. Mr. Thignon, Tax Committee. No?
Just the regular department head reports that we have lined up so far.
Not gonna approve the levy?
I guess we should approve the levy, yeah. Maybe we'll do that too.
That'd be a pretty good idea. Mr. Alt, highway.
Defer to Joel if he has anything.
Right now, the only thing we'll have the resolution for our annual maintenance expenditures for maintenance program for next year.
Okay, Doke. Mr. Barons, judicial.
Judicial's regular reports, management. We're gonna cover some of the things we've been covering and also put out bids for fertilizer for the farm.
Mrs. Awful, Health Committee.
Yes, we're gonna have our regular department reports and then, animal control.
All right, we're gonna look at the manner in which we classify the animal control wardens and whatnot. Okay. Mr. EMA report. You're next, sir.
Over the past month, last month I reported to you I was working on the EOP, the Emergency Operations Plan for the county. That's been submitted and then was since been approved. We had an LAPC meeting where we discussed possible actions to do in consequence of what we found in the commodity flow study, and we're still working on that. Been working on the hazard mitigation plan for the county, coming along very nicely on that. And it's last week. Last week was Winter Weather Preparedness Week. Did some public information about that. You know, keep blankets in your car. Don't heat your house with a propane space heater without venting, such like that. And then preparing for the next coming month, we have a couple of holiday events, a couple of parades, and in December I have my annual EMA Christmas party for my volunteers, so on and so forth. A lot of my time has been in the office working on the hazard mitigation plan and the EOP.
You said that hazard mitigation plan is coming along nicely.
Yes, sir.
Can you expand on that any?
So at this point, I've gone through the whole thing once and chopped out a lot of it. And now, a lot of it was, just didn't need to be in there, and I wanted to turn it down. And now I'm gonna go back through it where I put in comments for myself, insert some new data, which I've already done a lot of that, so that's where I'm at.
When do you think this will be done and submitted to IEMA for approval?
On that note, I attended a webinar. This approved jurisdictions having approved hazard mitigation plans will be able to start applying for a hazard mitigation project grants in February. That's due to the state disaster, the federal declared disaster in Illinois due to the flooding. Even though we were not a part of that for the last year, we're still able to apply for mitigation monies. It's my intention to try to get this approved in December and January, so that way, when February comes around, we can start the application process for any hazard mitigation projects that we may want to proceed with.
Okay, no. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Update on flood matters in Iroquois County. Last Thursday, the 21st, I was at a KRBC, YRBC meeting in Plymouth, Indiana, and things are really moving along very well there. I think I reported before they've identified at least 10,000 trees that need to be taken out of the river. system in Indiana. And they have taken steps, they've approved several projects to begin the process of getting that done, so things are moving along pretty nicely there, and that's really it's really an uplifting thing to see the attitude and the progress that's being made over there. It's something that we hope is gonna happen here, and along that lines, I want to encourage everybody that has any interest whatsoever in flooding in Iroquois County to come next Monday at 1:30 p.m. to Judge Kinzer's courtroom for a hearing on the proposed Iroquois County River Conservancy District. That being said, I think that's about what I have there. So we'll move on to Health Department financial policies. Do you have anything further, Taylor?
I talked to Jill. Jill is also under the impression that these policies were already approved.
Yeah, I went ahead and printed them off and printed off the minutes from November of last year where, the policies that we have now are already approved.
And they're the same as these right here?
Oh,
I guess since there's a little bit of confusion, my suggestion is to take a further look at this, and if we need some further action, we can put it on the agenda for next month.
Dee is on her way down. She was taking care of something, but she's on her way in because we do have to get those approved to meet our requirements for our community care coordination grant.
Okay, so as far as these go, these aren't the financial ones. This is the criminal background, the program income, the professional conduct, and the training policy specific to health department.
Okay.
And then these are the financial policies that were approved last year. So these are not financial policies. These are, if I'm understanding correctly, just for the health department as far as criminal background and program income and professional conduct.
Okay.
These have already been approved by the Board of Health?
Those, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to.
Do you know anything about that, Marvin?
Yeah, because the financial policies, they were already approved last year, but these are specific, it looks like, to the health department. And these are not financial policies. They're the criminal background, program income, code of professional conduct, and training policy.
Okay, and like I said, Dee's on her way in, so she.
All right, we'll come back to it when she gets here, I guess, and see if we can clarify the matter. Next item on the agenda is letters from the Department of Ag about parts E5 and E6. They're right here. They say exactly the same thing as the ones for E4, so if anybody wants to take a look at it. I mostly have this here so you know what we've got, so forth. So that takes us to Illinois Senate Bill 75, which primarily has to do with the Workplace Transparency Act. So I'd like to turn it over to Myron Munyon and see what Cliff McKnight can provide to the county in the way of assistance with this.
So the first one that was, that you guys should have already had an ordinance for was the act that was approved in November of 17 by Rauner, Public Act 100-0554. And that was something that Bliss was offering to help with back then. I'm sure you already have this in your ordinances, and I'm sure that you already have this plan in place. And this has to do with the sexual harassment, prohibition of it, details of it, and then a model that you would have to prevent that. So there should be something in place already with the county. And then, Governor Pritzker on August 9th of 19, signed bill, as John said, SB 75 into law. And that's more for, it pertains to you guys more in the Workplace Transparency Act. And so, from my understanding of the interpretation of this so far is that it goes into effect in January 1st. However, the outline of the training has not been released of what is expected from each entity that has employees, of what their expectations are. However, Bliss McKnight and other companies that I've checked with as well are anticipating that what they offer is probably exceeds what their expectations are, and they're willing to put that training on for you. But their recommendation is to wait till after January 1st when we get the information, because if we start doing something now, we're not sure that if it will apply to next year. So we'll work with Bliss McKnight on getting something set up, and then we can help and put that into place for a training for you if you so desire.
I think we have two concerns there. One is that we don't miss any deadlines with any of this, and the second one is getting something into place that's going to comply with the requirements. I think so far from everything that we've discussed, I think we're certainly amenable to having Bliss McKnight provide us with that training. And I don't know if that's something that you want us to have a motion today to do that, or would you rather wait until next month?
I think we'd rather wait until next month, and hopefully by then we'll have some interpretation from the state what the actual law says and what the expectations of the training is. And then we can compare that to what we have to offer, and then we can facilitate that training for you guys.
Okay.
And then I think there was a question asked about new hires.
Right.
What would happen if we had new hires? So I don't think it's going to be something at this point, and we'll have to see when the bill comes out, that you would be said audited. But I think that they're more along the lines, if you have an incident, they're going to require you to present to them that you have the training in place. So when we facilitate the training, we suggest that we start with the actual board and the heads of the departments, and then from there we would break down into the different departments, and then we would also have dates scheduled for somebody that was sick, didn't make the meeting, or new hires. So we could interpret that into a later training, and the same thing, and wait for everybody to get another date in line so that we can pick up the people that we missed or your new hires.
Okay, so you're saying that the training for new hires doesn't have to necessarily be done within 30 days of their hire date?
That part we don't know yet because we haven't seen the actual part of the law.
Because I mean, that's what information we've had
Is it?
been
Okay.
presented, what says that.
Yeah,
And that was the question we had, was that if Bliss McKnight provides the training for everybody here, we wouldn't be expecting you to come back every time we hire a new employee.
Right.
So we would want to try and get some kind of a plan worked out whereby someone here could, or some other way to get that accomplished.
right, like a train the trainer sort of thing.
Right.
And I think that was the second part of it, was that there's a website offered to where we would have designated people from your departments that they would be secured entry for usernames and passwords, so that they could get into the website and obtain the training,
Okay.
and then facilitate the training.
I think that's something that next month we want to have, address that.
Sure.
Have that worked out also.
Okay.
Another question that we have relative to all this is that we have to obviously make a number of changes to our policies. Is that something that Bliss McKnight can help us with also?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, I know that they do, but for example, for Compass, the people that I work for, they have human resources documents that we have access to. And so when we input your department and your name in there, it'll automatically generate your name into a policy that is written for this incident, whether it's sexual harassment or whatever it may be, for whatever other departments, and it automatically just autofills, if you will, and Bliss has the same thing. So then you would take that to your attorney once that you have that done, and then he can look that over and make sure that it's all good. It's more of a recommendation than it is us writing your policies for you. It would be, these are the policies that we have, kind of like a general policy, and then you would tailor it to fit your needs, and then fill it in, and then, autofill, and then give it to your attorney.
But as you probably know, we have a policy manual that was adopted in 2013, so it's, something that probably we should be reviewing anyway, but as far as, these areas here, I think is the primary concern.
Yeah.
And I'm talking not only about the sexual harassment, but the other things that are included in here.
Discrimination.
Have you seen all of this that UCCI put out? They got like an equal pay amendment that we have to adopt.
No, I haven't seen that.
You got, reimbursement for all employees for business expenses.
Okay.
We're doing that partially now, but not necessarily completely.
Right.
We've done this lactation room in the circuit court, we've got that completed, so we're good there. Then we got this Illinois Service Member Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. All this came out from UCCI. It's all part of the changes that were made, so when we talk about it, I think this is kind of what we want to get all those addressed, so if that's something you can look into, we can give you a copy of this for reference if you need it.
Yeah, I'd like a copy of that, and then I'll send it to Bliss, and then we can, thank you, and then we can go through it and make sure that we have something for you for all of them.
Yeah.
But this is all at no cost as well.
Right,
I mean,
that was my next question.
Yep, you were trying to avoid the risk, and that's gonna help you with your insurance, so.
All right.
And then we'll do what we can to help you with all of it.
Okay, all right, does anybody else have any questions? Any department heads or whatever? Mr. Cece?
So you're recommending that we do this after January 1st?
Yes.
Because the language in the bill is not clear yet?
I'm sorry?
Because the language in the bill is not clear yet?
Because the actual training that they will propose is not out yet. We don't have the perimeters of their training. We're assuming that what we have is going to be over the top of what they have. It'll probably be more expanded than what they have, but we want to make sure that we're not going to start training on something that isn't adequate for what you need. And if we started doing something before January 1st, the state doesn't know that they'll recognize it after, so it could be all a waste of time. And then once you get this training in place, it's something that you'll have to practice annually.
Right.
And you'll have to log it, that you walk everybody through it again.
That was just my concern. I wasn't sure if we were required to have this training done before the January 1st.
No, definitely not that, I know that for sure.
Department of Human Rights has not created the administrative rules on what the training is. That's their task. Yeah. So you gotta wait for that.
Okay, thank you.
I guess one other thing, our next meeting for this committee is on January 2nd.
Okay.
And I think when we convene at that time, another thing that we would want to try and work out is some kind of a plan to implement this. In other words, we're not going to have every county employee all at once.
Right.
How many sessions are we going to have? And I think each department head is going to want to try and, work into that so they know how they can send their employees here so that their department isn't completely shut down during the time that the training is going on.
Right.
So some kind of a plan of that type is something we're gonna have to work out, and if it's like gonna be 3 sessions in one day, or if it's gonna go over more than one day, whatever, I think we need to address that also at that time, so.
Yeah, and I talked to the risk manager about it, and I'll be working with him to facilitate this, and we are gonna, we know that it's hard to get everybody together, and so we're gonna offer it at whatever time is best for you guys. If it's 6, 7 o'clock at night, that we can get more of a, crowd here, then we'll do it then. But I wouldn't think we would do it multiple times in a day. I would think we would do it on different days and different times to try and work around your guys'
Okay, well,
schedules.
I think what ideas you have, and I think we'll try and get all the department heads up to speed in the meantime as well, so they can be thinking about how they're gonna be wanting to have this done.
Right.
Because, you know, like I said, if we're doing it in the daytime, we've got offices here that we have to keep open and staffed, so we
Right.
may send a third of their people or half, whatever they feel that they can accomplish.
Right.
And we probably need to have some idea how long the training is gonna last as well, so.
Yeah, and I think some of that might, you know, we may have to wait until we find out what their expectations are as
Right.
well before we start putting a time frame.
No,
on
I'm
how
just
long it'll
saying,
be.
these are the kind of questions I
Yeah.
think we wanna address on January 2nd, so
Okay.
we can try and put everything together.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you, Myron. Don't run away. Myron,
Yes.
don't run away.
Okay.
We may wanna ask you some questions about marijuana thing. That's the next one on the agenda here. You pass these around, Bob. Back in September, we approved charging a sales tax on any sales of recreational marijuana that might occur legally within the county. In the rural areas, that is. And also, we would get some from sales in the bigger areas, and then incorporated. What we need to do now is to examine the other options as far as what we wanna do going forward with the marijuana. Do we wanna allow people to grow marijuana in the county? Do we wanna allow sales of marijuana in the county? Do we wanna allow somebody to manufacture products from marijuana in the county? And what I passed around to you is a model ordinance put together by UCCI. Mr. Devine has looked at these also, and I think for a starting point, that would be something that we could look at doing. I sent an email around a few weeks ago about what happened up in Kankakee County, where they voted on this at their last board meeting, 13 to 12, they voted not to allow the sales of marijuana in the county. And I've since been informed by the chairman up there that they're gonna have a re-vote on that at their next board meeting. There's some of the board members that weren't at the last meeting that are in favor of doing it, are gonna be present at the next meeting, and they're anticipating their vote will be reversed. That they will allow some of this to occur. I'm not sure exactly how much of it is gonna be allowed, but it's gonna be changed from everything I've been told. So I guess what I would like to have us to do is to have everybody maybe weigh in on their thoughts as far as marijuana is concerned. Do we wanna have it to be sold in the county, in the rural areas? We can't regulate it in the incorporated areas. Like Watsika, if they wanna have somebody to sell it, they can apply for the licensing and so forth.
Does this cover the growing of industrial hemp, or is that a totally separate?
I think that's gonna be separate. In fact, that's already being done in the county.
Yeah,
So this wouldn't,
Industrial hemp.
but this wouldn't, if we vote to not do it, this won't prohibit that?
No.
Okay.
Industrial hemp has been grown in the county for almost 100 years, hasn't it?
Legally and illegally, but it is being run now. We did have a circumstance a couple of months ago where some kids from Kankakee thought they hit the mother lode by stealing, I don't know how many garbage bags full of these sativa plants. And they brought them back to Kankakee. Well, they were caught and they were arrested. And they were taken from a farm in Iroquois County that was growing this industrial hemp. And, I mean, there was probably 5 or 6 bags of garbage bags of these plants, and if you burned them all and inhaled every whiff of it, you wouldn't get high. It's that low of the THC factor. So it's not an intoxicating plant at that level. I mean, they grow it to lack the THC, which is the intoxicating part of the plant, so. For what it's worth, it can be a beneficial industrial product.
I think one thing I could add is that I did watch the video of the last Kankakee board meeting, and I'm not saying that we need to pattern ourselves after them, but one thing that Chairman Wheeler did when they debated this at the full board meeting was to go around and allow each board member an opportunity to comment on it. And if we feel like that something along those lines this is a significant, important enough issue, we can certainly employ that same practice at our next board meeting. But I think today what I'd like to do is to have us make some decisions as to what direction we think we ought to be going in, and that obviously will be something then for the full board to be approving.
Does it affect the legal system if we go one way or the other, you guys?
This is an economic decision you're making. Yeah, I mean, the law is gonna be the way it is in any event, and it's gonna be legal to possess certain quantities. What?
I can't.
The law is the way it is. I mean, you're gonna be able to possess personally up to 30 grams. And a gram is it's like an equal sugar packet. That's what a gram is.
Okay.
So you can have up to 30 of those legally after January 1, anywhere, and as long as you're age 21 and older.
It's anywhere in the state or in the counties now, say whether they want to.
Anywhere in the state, so we can't be more restrictive. Well, we can't be less restrictive. I mean, I don't think we can be more restrictive in this. It's like alcohol. I mean, they regulate alcohol and how we can manage it. And marijuana is going to be managed the same way.
So basically it would be like a liquor license that we would give if we decide to do it?
As far as the dispensing of it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that would be something that we could.
We could limit the purchase though, too, less than the state has, right?
No, we can't be,
Okay.
that would be more restrictive if we.
We can't get more
We
restricted.
can't be more restrictive.
If you look at the ordinance and you ban all 5 things, then you're fine. If you accept one or the other, then you have to make sure that you don't fall, that you do not make anything more restrictive or unreasonably restrictive, and unreasonably was not defined. So if you say yes to selling or yes to growing or whatever, then zoning has to develop a zoning ordinance, and that zoning ordinance cannot be overly restrictive or unreasonable. So either no, and then you're done, or yes, you have a lot of work.
And the state's not done promulgating their rules either. I mean, it's a continuing thing as far as the rules on growing and because this, I mean, the THC part of this is really the wild card because plants are always evolving into various strengths of the THC compound in them. So it's only going to get stronger as our geneticists, evolve these plants into stronger plants. So I think the state is going to be continuing to watch how the rules on this are governed.
If we decide no for now, we can always revisit it and say yes later.
Yes.
All right, that was also one thing that, up in Kankakee, Chairman Wheeler at the end of their meeting said that was the end of it unless the citizens had brought a referendum. When I spoke to him last week, he admitted that was wrong and that they can change their mind, and that's how he pointed out that what they're gonna be doing, at their next meeting, so. If we say no to it today, we can always change our mind later. If we say yes to any of these things, we can go back the other way. If you say no, it's a lot easier to go yes than I think if you say yes and then you go back and against it, because if you already have something in place, you're stuck with it.
Yeah, then it's grandfathered in.
Right.
is it something that we'd be better off, even if we're in favor of it, to say, well, let's wait till they actually get everything figured out and then revisit it? Because if they're still looking at, if they don't have the rules completely down yet,
Well, they do have a set of rules, and that's what they're asking you to govern right now on this existing set of rules, but it's gonna change. I mean, it's,
Rules will constantly change.
yeah.
To me, this is an issue that's very controversial. That's one reason why I'm very interested in giving everyone an opportunity to have their say or input into it, so we can get a clear understanding of exactly what we want. And one thing we want to do after we finish this discussion, the reason I asked Myron to stay, is that we want to look at adopting a policy for a drug-free workplace here in the county.
well, I think by prohibiting it from being sold in the unincorporated areas, we're not prohibiting from being sold within the county, and, you know, I think.
We
more
already have
likely-
jurisdiction in the unincorporated
Right,
areas.
it's more likely to be sold in a town anyway. So I don't know that it would benefit us to have it out of this, you know. I think we're better off not having it out at the edge of, you know.
We're talking about the 5 things that are, you know, there's the sale, there's the
Right.
growing of it, there's the manufacturing, and so forth.
Better to say no to all of it, for now. Because
Well,
we're really
even
not
if we
sure about
say-
anything yet.
Even if we say we wanna let them grow it, it's gotta be approved by the state, right? So just cause we say, yeah, you can grow it, they still have to get a state license to grow it.
Yes. And that's gonna be regulated. Right now, the first round is the dispensary, and we are in the East Metropolitan, East World Non-Metropolitan District of like sites. And there's only gonna be 2 dispensary licenses in the counties. I mean, this is basically a map right now, the first round. And basically, the locations that are gonna get the licenses,
This is the map that
Yes.
Chad's talking
how I'll
about.
say this, they have to have communities of social injustice that reside in them, and they will have priority in preference for the law. I'll let you interpret.
I don't think we can understand the difference between the East Central and the West Central, what that means, but that's what they've got, so. And we're up here all by ourselves, and then the rest of the counties in the East Central are all south of Champaign County.
Well, it seems like to me there's a lot of uncertainties right now on this.
But the infusing licenses will be coming as the Department of Agriculture and the craft grower regulations will be coming out. And right now it's the dispensary, but the gummy bear makers are gonna want their licenses so they can make infused gummies.
It's not the Oklahoma gold rush or land rush, but it's similar to that. People are jumping ahead to try and get their stake in the game, because there's only so many spots available. And that's kind of where, the reason why, you know, there is some urgency to it if we wanted to do something like that.
It'd be wise to have something in place for January 1st, because that's when it takes effect. And either way, it protects us so that we have to develop zoning ordinances, and we can put something in place that restricts until the zoning is developed. But if we don't have anything in place, then there's nothing telling the state that we are against. And you could have someone try to wiggle it, so we need to have something.
So if,
restricting personal possession.
Okay,
It's only 7.
can they grow it? Under the law, I understand they can grow a certain amount personally.
Yeah, 5 plants.
Yeah.
That's only medical?
Only medical.
You have to have a medical license, a medical
Card.
Okay, the person that was telling me, I think was looking forward to it, and I don't think it was for medical reasons.
Probably not, and the enforcement of that aspect of the law is going to be nearly impossible.
Mhm.
So,
But this wouldn't affect that personal growing and use if we said no.
We are,
no, but I mean, it'll be the state law that will govern then anybody who's growing it for personal use who's not eligible to do so, that's where I come in, and it doesn't have anything to do with the county.
I kinda agree with Kankakee's approach of letting every board member speak their feelings about it before they vote, and everybody should vote on it.
I kind of agree with that also. I think that any recommendations or thoughts that we have today, we can still express to the board and still accomplish that same.
Yeah, and then let them,
Same.
each one of them make their own comments. I think it's important that they have a chance to.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we don't have to take a position on it. We can take the position that we want to send it to the full board for their discussion and approval. I mean, we can do
I
that.
think we should do that.
That's fine. I don't see any problem with doing that.
I don't think we should be held responsible for guiding the meeting afterwards, but no matter which way it goes.
You know, our board was gonna do their own thing anyway.
Well, I hope so. This is one thing they should do their own thing on.
Yeah.
So was that a motion?
Yeah. Well, it's a dandy, isn't
Come on, Amanda.
it? Be creative.
Put down whatever you want.
because they can strike it.
I'll make the motion that we send it to the full board for consideration without a recommendation at this point.
I would second that motion.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, one other item that we wanna take a look at is, I'm trying to find my paperwork on it here, was the workplace part. You got a copy of that down there? Or not?
You got this?
No, this one here.
No, you do not.
Dee,
Yes.
would you give us some information about this on the marijuana in the workplace? So we can, you went to that seminar about that. I think you talked at our last meeting, did you not?
That's just about the drug testing policies for agencies. It's not anything to do with the ordinances, though.
Nothing to do with us adopting a drug-free policy for,
Yeah, it's policy, yeah.
I mean, that's what we wanna do, I believe, or consider.
Okay.
You didn't get any information about that at that seminar?
Yes, I spoke about that at the last meeting, right?
Right, that's what I'm asking you to refresh our
Okay.
minds about.
I thought you meant in between now and then I've gone someplace else. No, so the basics of that is that their recommendation, the attorney that was speaking at that meeting, his recommendation was that you do not have a policy that includes language such as, under the influence or anything like that, because it's, very difficult to prove, that somebody is under the influence of marijuana, even if they test positive, because you can't really determine whether they smoked it over the weekend or, whatever. So their recommendation, strong recommendation, was a drug-free policy, a no tolerance policy. And we discussed that a little bit last Wednesday at the Illinois Association of Public Health Administrators meeting, their executive council meeting in Springfield. And most, at least all I can speak for is the health departments. Most health departments are going with a no tolerance policy. You can't discriminate against a person if they come in and you're doing a job interview and they say that they smoke pot on the weekends. You can't discriminate, obviously, if it's legal in the state of Illinois. But, so you can hire them, but if they sign that they have read the policy, that you have a policy in place, they have to be made aware that there's a policy in place. If they have read the policy and signed off that they are aware of the policy, and then they test positive, then you can let them go. But they strongly recommended staying away from any language that would give any leeway, because, you know, unless you have a physician there determining whether they're, you know, under the influence, then that would be unbelievably difficult to prove. So the key takeaways, the 3 key takeaways from that training was, make sure you have a policy in place that states that you have a no tolerance policy. Make sure that you have communicated it, so you have to send it out. You can't just hand somebody a piece of paper. You have to be able to prove you've done it. So make sure you're emailing them the policies, so you have proof that they've received it, and make sure that they have signed that they have read it. And once you've done those 3 things, then it should stand up, you know, if the person tries to sue you because you let them go because they drug tested positive. And they said that every place in Illinois, every workplace in Illinois has a right to have a drug-free workplace. That is a right. So if you so choose to have to, you know, to take that right. They also talked a little bit about drug testing, and that you need to go through an approved agency for drug testing, and that the agency needs to be the person who randomly selects people if you're going to drug test randomly, because it shouldn't be an in-house thing where you're picking your own employees unless you have, what's the word, Jim? Reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion. And there are very specific guidelines for reasonable suspicion. Am I right, Joel? Because Joel's gone to that too. Gone to that. And so your best bet by far is to go with a no tolerance policy. It protects everybody. They also talked a little bit about federal granting agencies, the difference between state law and federal, because marijuana is still illegal federally and will be after January 1st. Because the health department receives federal grant money through our grants, any employees that are working on that have to have we have to have a no tolerance policy for them. Otherwise, if we don't, we can lose our federal funding on our federal grants. So, and the way, and he flat out said it, this attorney who works with all these companies to develop these policies, flat out said that federal policy trumps the state policy when you're receiving federal monies. So, for example, all the health department employees, not all of our grants are federal, but they all work under the Public Health Emergency Preparedness if we have an emergency, and that's a federal grant. So all health department employees will have to have a no tolerance policy. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I have sample policies, and I think it was, I don't know if it was last finance or policy procedure, it might have been a month ago. You asked me to get those to Jim Devine. I have not done that yet. I apologize. I'm still focusing on these financial policies, so I haven't done that yet. But I can give those to Jim today.
Okay, I guess the question
They're
is
samples.
that something,
That this attorney gave us.
Okay.
I guess the question is that something that you wanna have Mr. Devine handle, or is that something that Bliss McKnight can help us with, or both? I mean, how do we wanna handle this? Do we want?
That's up to you.
You wanna do it, Mayor?
You know, I can ask him.
See how that works?
Smooth, Jim.
Was it?
Yeah, very
You
smooth.
didn't notice it.
I caught on.
Snuck that right in.
So would you like those sample policies that this attorney gave to us? I have two different ones that he gave us.
Okay.
They did say, and I think I mentioned this last time, correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, there has to be a separate DOT policy and a non-DOT policy, because their policy for DOT is much stricter than the average employee policy.
Okay, the first thing that we have to do is that we have to pass a motion saying we wanna have a drug-free workplace.
I so move.
Second.
That was pretty easy. Any further discussion or questions? If not, yes, sir.
If you're going to make a drug-free workplace, I suggest you make some teeth into what the cause and effect is, if that's so important. Because if you simply say you're a drug-free workplace, that's great, but there's nothing that tells us what's gonna happen in the event that.
That would be all part of the policies that we have to develop to cover that. And then the motion is to have that and implement, get the policies prepared in place. Hopefully by next month we can approve those policies.
Okay.
That everybody's understanding of how we're gonna proceed? Okay, if there's no further discussion, would you call the roll? I think this is a very important thing.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Awful, Signot,
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Okay, you can have this too, Myron. It's got some further information about it, along with what Steve got. Appreciate it very much. Okay, that takes us to appointments. I have one appointment being requested, that's for Marvin Andrus, excuse me, to the zoning board of appeals, so I'll bring that before the full board on December 10th.
We can wait till January 10th, because we have a meeting in December.
Next we got correspondence. Correspondence for what the-
John. Was she ready with her ordinance?
Yeah, I'll come back to it. Let's see what's going on with it.
Put that on the calendar.
This right here is some correspondence from MediaCom, which frankly, I'm not sure I understand. It seems to be a bit confusing. I don't believe there's anything that we paid any money for, but you're right. They talk about some kind of licensing that we could get revenue from it. I just don't understand what it's all about. I guess it's something that we need to look into further, unless somebody else knows something about it.
I don't think it relates to us. It's for villages. Villages can pass an ordinance allowing a certain,
Well, the county can do the same thing, can't they?
they're not gonna, well, they might wire the whole county for,
There's one that runs right by in the ground, right in front of my place.
and if you wanna
I imagine they
say that MediaCom is the provider for the county, then
I imagine they could tap into that if they wanted to.
so does that become a management issue?
What you want?
I'm just saying, the letter came in the mail, it's addressed to Ron Schrader, and then it's addressed to another one to Kyle Anderson. And
They'll
it's the first-
get to you after you're gone.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've seen it, so I just don't know what it's all about, you know. I don't know if somebody else does, so.
Each town picks their own provider and then.
Right, I understand that.
So, I mean, do you wanna do that? Get money?
Well, it's something to look into, I guess.
Okay.
Apparently it's come up before.
Who should look into it?
Well, if you'd like management committee to look into it,
I think it's
that'd be
more of
great
an
with me.
IT issue.
What?
I think it's more of an IT issue.
Do you? No, I don't think so.
It's a John Kerr issue.
I suppose I can make a phone call.
Good. You can just, when you get done looking at that, Marvin, just give that to him. Okay, before we go on to claims, let's back up and go look at these policies that the health department brought in here so we can try and get the confusion cleared up. If you come over here and help us out, Dee.
Yeah, okay, so, so, I wasn't here for the first part of the meeting when you were talking about this, I don't know what happened, but Jill just handed me some meeting minutes from November of 2018 that said the financial policies were approved. And I said, no, that can't be it, because we didn't receive these from Clifton Larson Allen for first draft with their changes until after that. And I have it here. I have the email from Elia Grady from Clifton Larson Allen, who sent it to Amanda on December 27th, 2018. It says, "Hi Amanda, we have reviewed the finance policies and drafted the grant-specific policies. Please see attached." And it has all of the different things. And she went over the policies that they made changes on. So I have a copy here that was attached to this, that came from Ayla Grady, with all those changes on it. They're highlighted in that. So what had happened was they made the changes, and through the processes, it kept not getting on policy and procedure for approval. It went to health committee, at one point in time, I don't know when. I'd have to look back through the meeting minutes. I brought them to health committee. Health committee referred them to policy and procedure, which is appropriate. I brought them to policy and procedure. They asked me to send them to Jim Devine for his review. Jim has okayed all that Clifton Larson Allen wrote. The health department paid $2,500 to have these policies changed. But these are not health department policies, these are county policies, because the health department adopted the financial policies of Iroquois County. So, when we got these 10 audit deems, there were 10 total audit deems. A couple of them were for other things. There was a background check ding, there was a code of conduct ding on the code of conduct policy. They were all policy dings. One was on our training policy, which we've changed internally and done all that, and that was approved by the Board of Health a long time ago. But the financial policies, I can't have my Board of Health changed. That has to be changed by the county because they're county policies. But they don't meet GATA requirements, which is why we paid the $2,500 to Clifton Larson Allen to have them review and make recommended changes to meet the new GATA requirements, okay? So here we are still not getting these. So that's why, so I went to Jill a couple weeks ago. I said, Jill, she wanted copies again. I gave her the copies again. I said, a lot of these say Iroquois County Public Health Department on them. Or there's even a couple that say, need Joel Moore's input on them. Because Clifton Larson Allen wrote them with recommended suggestions.
I saw some of that, and they got, 3 or 4 different colored inks.
Right.
Comments.
Well, this has been a long thing. So a couple weeks ago, I went to Jill. I said to Jill, do you want me to bring copies of the policies with the changes? Or, I can't really be changing Iroquois County finance stuff. That should be you. She said she would make the changes, make sure it said Iroquois County, not Iroquois County Public Health Department, even though we paid for this. And she would bring the copies here today. But in the meantime, I think Jill got, in her defense, I think she got confused because she found a meeting minutes from last November that said that they were approved.
Well, that was a.
That was a different,
That was a result of a discussion that she and I had, because we were both confused, and that confusion is carried over till today. That's why we're trying to get things cleared up so we can
Right.
understand what's going on.
but what I'm saying is we didn't receive them until December. So the meeting minutes from last November that say that they were approved are for something else.
Well, we can look at the policy, we can look at the policies that was approved before and make sure that they're going to have the changes in them that you're talking about.
Well, they can't because those were approved
I agree with
in
what you're.
November, and we did not receive the changes from Clifton Larson Allen, the $2,500 I paid them to make the changes until December 27th.
I agree with that, but I'm just saying as a precaution or whatever, it would be good to double check it, that's all.
Yeah,
That's all.
I agree with that. Never hurts to double check. So, my problem is, I am East Central Illinois Area Agency on Aging, did this audit as part of our senior service programs. Every single month, they send me a letter every month that says, where are you at on your policies? You know, they're continuing to let us operate, but this has been going on for almost a year now, and we can't keep doing this because they're gonna end up saying, you don't meet data requirements, we're gonna pull your funding. And eventually, I mean, this has been going on for a year. We need some resolution.
Okay, well, what we're wanting to do is approve the financial policies, not this. Or are we wanting to do this also?
Well, I mean, okay, you definitely want to approve the financial policies, but I'm recommending that you do those as well because those got audit dings from an auditor. They don't meet data requirements, so the county might as well adopt those too. Because you're going to get audit dings on all your other grants. We're going to get them on all of our other grants. So if I were sitting in your position, I would adopt everything that Clifton Larson Allen rewrote for us.
Okay, those have to go into this book, our personnel policy book, or not? This is something separate.
No, that's personnel policy. These are financial policies.
No, these aren't financial policies. Criminal background check is not a financial policy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the other ones. Yes, those would have to go into the personnel book. That and now the training policy, I wouldn't adopt that because that's specific to that grant program. Okay, like I said, out of the 10 dings, two of them I think were specific to the health department training stuff, but the other 8 were policies that should be changed at the county level to meet valid grant requirements now. Does that make sense?
None of us like to get dinged.
No.
Okay, so you need a motion to approve the updated financial policies, and then probably a separate motion to approve the other policies,
Updated personnel policy.
personnel policies.
And Jim's read through them. They're okay. Clifton Larson Allen wrote them, so I mean they were written by our own financial people.
Right, financials I've looked at.
Yeah.
What about these others? Have you seen these?
Yes, I sent them all to Jim as a package with like different.
He says no.
You know.
No, I'm not saying no, I
No.
don't remember looking at the personnel policy changes, but I can look real quick.
Well,
They were in there,
Were they?
but Taylor, go ahead and let him look at them.
Okay, those are the only copies. that we don't
He
get.
can't look at them that quick.
well,
I'm a speed reader.
I would make a motion that we approve the updated financial policy and procedures. Is that all it needs to say, or is there something more to it?
Well, would it be okay? Because you can change them at any time, right?
We
Right.
recommend to the health department, I mean. we
But,
can
yeah,
set a
so,
recommendation.
like, I would like to see a recommendation that we approve all policies that were rewritten by Clifton Larson Allen. And then if Jim looks them over and has a problem, we can change them again, right?
And if you want the health committee, the county board health committee to, kind of have the final say as far as a recommendation, you could do that.
I did that. I already took them to them. They wanted me to send them to you.
Okay.
That's how all this got.
Okay, we can approve them. The only
That was
thing
like a
I would
month.
add to that is that we ought to have a date when these were written, so specific, the date that were referring to which policies we know. we're
Okay,
talking
so they were sent to, from Ayla Grady to Amanda Longfellow on Thursday, December 27th, 2018 at 6:44 p.m. Let me read this to you. Hi Amanda, we have reviewed the finance policies and drafted the grant-specific policies. Please see attached. On the financial policies document, there are several items highlighted in yellow that were open items in the document sent to us. The items highlighted in blue are what Clifton Larson Allen added so that the policies are in conformance with the uniform grant guidance. That's got it. For the 4 policies we drafted, they will need to be reviewed in detail for accuracy. One additional policy that is needed is for the standards of merit system. Is this something that the HR department already has? Wanted to check since it seems like something that you might already have on file. See below for the requirements, and then it lists all the requirements for the changes for the deans we got specifically. So it lists those specifically. So,
And Clifton Larson wrote those.
Clifton Larson wrote
Those
all of them,
changes,
yeah.
okay.
So, and those actually, Jim, were included in, you may not have realized it, but they were included in what I sent you.
Okay, I probably read them, I just can't independently sit here and
Right,
write that in front
sure.
of me.
You got dollars down and date and everything, okay.
So, we need to get moving on this because it's just been, since last December, every month.
So you wanna incorporate that into your motion, Lyle?
So the policies that were sent, the updated policies that were sent to us on the above-mentioned date, that we approved them. I guess I'm in the middle of I don't know which way to go with it. I mean,
Did you say recommendation?
I'd like to see the policies that Clifton Larson Allen rewrote approved, because those will meet the GATA requirements.
Yeah,
I can send them to East Central Illinois Agency on Aging.
That's what his motion is.
Okay.
okay. I move that the updated policies that were sent from Clifton Larson Allen at the above date be approved
By the county board.
by the county board, okay?
And adopted by the county board.
Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Alt? Are there any further discussion or questions about the motion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Barons,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Awful,
Yes.
Sticknot,
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
you're happy.
I just need
We
to
like, we wanna have a happy health department.
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna have East Central Illinois Area Agency on Aging on me if these don't get approved quick, because every month they're asking for them.
Now you can
And we
tell
spent
them,
$2,500 to get them done, I just need to get the approval.
when they call, you can tell them that it's about to be approved by the full board.
Okay.
We very much appreciate the
I emailed
diligence,
them last week too.
we very much appreciate the diligence of the health department.
Thank you.
Is that what you wanted me to say?
No, yes, I know.
Is that how you wrote it out?
I just wanna make I just wanna get my grant audits corrected. I want them corrected. I don't like auditing. We don't get very many of them. And I
Okay.
take those seriously.
Next item is claims. One claim.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
What the heck is it?
I'll second it.
I can't,
The motion and a second to approve the claim.
what is
Is there any questions or comments?
fuel? Is it fuel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fuel.
$94.34.
For the truck.
Does it go to those places or?
The IEMA.
Martin?
What?
You seconded it, right?
I think I did.
I don't think so.
That's what I heard.
Account for.
Right next to Gavin.
I didn't hear. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Too much distraction.
They just hardly asked what it was.
all right,
To these places?
all right, we're gonna call the roll on the approving the claim.
Barron,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Awful,
Yes.
Sticknot,
Yes.
Sure.
Is there any old business to come before the committee this morning? Is there any new business? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second by Mrs. Hawthorne. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Who's tax?